All right. We are here recording today. I'm here with Sebastian
Hi.
and Sebastian Forestier-Macias. Said that correctly,
Yes.
yes. Okay.
Really
All
good.
right. Great. And Sebastian is here to talk about social media and how it's affecting life for artists. Well, we're here to
Mm,
talk about that, but I brought Sebastian on specifically because Sebastian is pretty great at social media. In fact, I was looking for someone to help me out with stuff for my social. And I found Sebastian actually at one of the workshops I was doing through one of the universities. Do you want to say which one, where you are,
yeah, so
Sebastian?
I was the graphic designer at UTSA, specifically for the School of Music. Sarah was hosting a workshop and I was in charge of the flyer. And so my boss kind of connected us. And I remember I was like at a coffee shop and I get this like FaceTime call and we're talking and everything is really good. I had just gotten my digital marketing certification. So I kind of like didn't I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing because like I didn't really I've never had like a client for social media marketing before, but I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try it. It's a really good experience. And Sarah ended up being like one of my favorite clients. So
Oh,
yeah, and very professional. A lot of things we've kind of learned together. So I think it's interesting how far we've come from like where we started.
mm-hmm. I agree. I agree completely. So yeah, I remember actually just kind of thank you for those kind words on your end.
Of course.
I genuinely love working with Sebastian as well. And I think that's really important, when you're working with someone on your social stuff or your graphic stuff or whatever, any kind of partnership, in your business, important to really feel that there is a chemistry and some like-mindedness. And I remember seeing the flyer that was made by the graphic department at UTSA and thinking, this, whoever made this, like, really is good. Like, he gets it. He gets what's going on here. The only thing I had to tell him was, this is sorry. He didn't know, but
The harp.
the harp was backwards. The harp was backwards. The strings were on the wrong side. And most people aren't going to care about that, but me being kind of sometimes a little perfectionist about those kinds of things. But
Hmm.
actually, no, I mean, it's just
I'm the
basic.
same way.
Right. Any musician who sees that is going to see that and be like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
what's going on here. But other than that, the messaging was great. The font was great. The colors were really good. Everything was great. So I was like, okay, I need to, follow up with this person. And I was kind of thinking about hiring someone for a while. So Sebastian, what is you're still at UTSA, right?
Yeah, I got like one
Correct.
more semester left.
Amazing. Okay. And your major is
I
major is what was
am
that?
so I go to school for art and my major's I specialize in new media with a minor in marketing. That's mainly so that I can be kind of a graphic designer and a digital marketing specialist, but yeah, for the most part I go to school for art.
Love it. Love it. And that's one of the reasons why you're so good at this is you just see things and know what's going to work and it's great.
Thank you.
It's a great collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, we wanted to come on here today and talk about social media and just
Mm,
basically how it's affecting life for the arts community. First of all, why do you think we need it, in your opinion? Why do we as artists need social?
I think social media is evolving very quickly. I think we all kind of as both musicians like and artists together live in this weird space where social media is kind of like our portfolio now. I think that it's kind of we live in a world where like artists can't not be online, like everything is so kind of intertwined with the digital age now that it's people kind of see it as like a red flag now if you don't have social media or if you're not socially active in some way or another. It's in my case, it's not only my portfolio, it's like my resume, it's my stage. Sometimes it's my diary. Like
Hmm.
sometimes like I think we kind of get so lost in it. Sometimes we put a little bit too much of our lives on social media, and it's crazy how how it's kind of shaped our not only like my generation, but like your generation and so many other generations are like getting kind of altered by this new like culture.
Hmm? Wow, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
First, you said, okay, first I got to get rid of my cat. I love him, but he's causing issues here. All right. So, so you said that, you know, people, you tend to kind of use it as a diary almost.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that that can be good, right? Because it does show your authenticity, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah.
But when can it be kind of too much, do you think?
I think when it starts affecting the way you perceive yourself,
Mm,
especially when, social media is kind of designed to be, you're designed to be viewed as kind of a spectacle. Like you always have an audience. It really boils down to how much of it are you doing for yourself versus how much of it are you doing for your followers. And sometimes those lines can get blurred. I know for me, certain content that I make gets more attention than other content that I make. Like, I think for a while, like when I was doing a lot of like, I used to be kind of like a fitness guru. I was making a lot of like workout content. I noticed that that was getting a lot more attention than like my art and my music. And it was frustrating me because it was like, well, I like want people to appreciate my creativity as much as like I want them to appreciate, my fitness journey and everything. And I think people are just gonna automatically, I think people don't really always appreciate like art. They consume it. And so they're consuming content so quickly. I mean, think about how fast we like scroll on our phones without even realizing it. Like we're consuming so much. Like we don't even sometimes have the time or like the attention span to like absorb everything in full detail, which is why I think part of what we do in our social media marketing campaigns is we have to be quick to the point, like very direct with our audience, because if not, like they'll just completely, it'll fly over their heads. They just won't even be interested.
yeah. So what do you think it is about you said the fitness stuff specifically was getting more attention?
I think visually, I think people are sometimes drawn to like aesthetics. People are drawn to, I think, content that's like easy to consume, very like especially like I was making a lot of like I would say it was very performative for me. Like it was very like the mood lighting, the
Mm.
dumbbells, the muscles, like it's that stuff is easy. It's easy, like quick, easy likes. And I think I learned that very quickly. I tried to kind of like I would sneak in like, oh, look at my art that I made today, crickets. Like just like no nobody
Oh
like
no.
and so I started at one point doing this thing where like I would go at the gym and work out and record myself, but instead of using like an audio track from like Instagram, I was like plugging in my own music, like the music that I make like on my own time to like
Cool.
kind of like force people to listen to it.
That's
And
great.
that was working for a little bit, but the thing is like at the end it kind of boils down to like I don't know. At one point I kind of lost track of like, well, I'm not really doing this for me anymore. I'm doing it for like engagements and views and external validation that at the end of the day, like the second you put your phone down, I mean like none of it really mattered in the first place.
Right. Yeah. It can be all consuming when it
Yeah.
becomes like that.
Yeah.
So for kind of going back to, you said that this is supposed to be, or in today's world, this is your portfolio. You could
Yes.
kind of take it one step further in kind of the same vein and say, if you're coming out of school, if you're looking for a job as, an older career person, it's your resume, right? It's
Mhm.
something, I mean, people are going to Google you. People are going to look up your social account, so whatever you put out there, people are going to find it.
Mhm.
And it does kind of beg the question, how how deep to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
How real to get versus the performative side, like you said.
It's hard. It's really difficult for a lot of people because I know like even for like performing artists too, like I think when people look you up, like whether it's like a recruiter or someone like an event curator or something, like I think it's one of those things where they want to see that you have a presence somewhere. I think even LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn's a great example because LinkedIn is one of those social medias that it's really detrimental in the workforce as far as like I said earlier, what ties into your portfolio and your resume. I my LinkedIn is very performative, but not necessarily like fake. I think people sometimes mix up those two concepts, but I I know that people want to see that you have stuff going on, that you're getting booked, that you have shows, you're showing up to things, that you have projects. And if they look your name up and they don't see any of that, or they see like, private account, that's kind of like nowadays it's kind of like a red flag. It's interesting to see how much more luck I've had talking to recruiters or people like straight up through like social networks. People don't really look at resumes anymore or portfolios because now there's AI. Like AI does all that stuff. And now it's a matter of knowing people in order to like get a job or get a gig, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always kind of been the thing, especially, well, I think it's in every industry, but it's particularly in the arts, right? The
Hmm.
person who's maybe the best person for the job or the best fit doesn't always get it. It's just a lot of times it's who you know. Not that the people aren't talented, but
Yeah.
it's the same deal in a lot of industries. But I think you make a really good point about, if it being kind of a red flag, especially as the generations move on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about, someone like me who's, 40 plus and we're kind of overwhelmed by it, or kind of like, this is just one more thing. This is more time out of my day. This is a pain in my butt. Like, I don't want to deal with this. What are some practical tips that you can give to artists who are kind of thinking this way?
I think setting one thing I would say is like setting an intention before you even open your phone, like
Mm.
what am I gonna get out of this? Like what am I gonna I do this a lot because I don't know if you can relate to this, but I doom scroll a lot. Like I find myself like it's bad for me. Like I find myself at like 2 a.m. just like I can't put the phone down and go to bed. Like I'm just going down this rabbit hole. And I get in these I get so far into it that like out of it I'm just so like fatigued. I'm so like like why did I
Mm,
even do this in the first place? And so like you kind of have to like set an intention like what am I opening this app for today? Like and
hmm
how long am I going to be on here? What am I looking for? And if what like once you've done that, like you close it and then go get back to your day, Like
hmm
don't it's easy to kind of like get consumed in it. I think especially for I would say like not even just for your generation, but like in just in
Yeah,
general. I
sure.
think that it's maybe just like posting something lovely about your day. Like maybe you went on a really nice walk, you know, you took a really nice picture of the sky, like posting that, maybe like a quick little quote or something, and then like just shutting the
hmm
phone, just that like you kind of have to walk away from it because like once you sit there and you start like waiting and waiting and checking your phone and then like seeing like oh well how many likes and then it just kind of starts to bum you out because then like you have an expectation in your head and then it doesn't meet the reality always. And I think naturally our brains kind of crave that like dopamine hit of like the validation of like, oh, this post did well. Like this is outperforming. You kind of like have to condition your brain to like, no, we don't need that. Like you don't need that, you know?
Sure, sure. Yeah. No, I mean, there's genuine, research on this that it like really affects your mental state
Hmm.
for good and bad. And
Yeah.
that it's really a big time suck too, like you were kind of alluding to, it makes you stay up later.
Yeah.
Often it's the first thing you grab in the morning.
Hmm.
It's like a drug,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
Like you said, the dopamine hit. Yeah. And I find just in my own experience, if I now keep my phone outside my bedroom on a charger. And if I just like start my day, I mean, I quick check, usually first look at the phone to see are there any like SOS texts dealing with work stuff. And then I go about my day. I try not to pick up the phone first thing. I try to like at least do something. I follow Marie Forleo, and she has a really good
Mm,
mantra on this, and it's you should create before you consume.
I love that.
So, yeah, and that can be something as simple as, go for your walk or go work on whatever project you had. Just do something toward your goal for the day
Yeah.
that's going to help you and your own self before you get inundated with everyone else and like I don't want to say not reality, but things that are just external, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like setting your own intention for the day is
Right.
really big. So you
Yeah.
said though, it's something as simple as posting a picture for your day. Like, all right, so what I'm kind of getting at is I think the younger generation is better at this. Maybe they also feel overwhelmed, but what about the person specifically in my age bracket that's like, you know, doesn't even know where to start? You're saying just posting something simple like a picture or maybe something that's going on with you. Like what's the point of that? Like why should somebody do that?
I think time and time again, I've noticed this trend of, like, it's kind of what I mentioned earlier, aestheticness, this kind of like obsession with like looking pristine and polished, kind of makes us doubt whether we can even have a presence on social media. So it makes it difficult to like feel confident in like what we put out, you know? And so I think it's more so just like for example, like in your context, I think that there's this rise of like aesthetic practice videos, but I think people need to show more like the messy reality of rehearsal, you know, like the reality that is being a musician or a performing artist or like so I think the more authentic the better, you know, like the um I I mean for me like I can't like personally I relate more to it. You don't know how many people are out there that might run into your content and be like, "Oh, I like my setup looks just like that, you know, like paper is over there." And maybe it's like maybe it doesn't look like that. You know, maybe you have a system, maybe you're organized. Kind of showing that, you know, you'll learn that there's an audience for everybody. There's like as long as you're being genuine and authentic, somebody out there is going to resonate with that. I think just kind of trying to be yourself as aggressively as possible, you know, is the
Hmm.
best method. Think like that's kind of why I said, you know, like going out for a walk. If that's something you normally do, and
Hmm.
that's something that like if you normally take pictures of the sky, I think that's great. I think that's enough, you know. I if you're not the kind of person to like play the harp with like a huge spotlight under you, like over you, like like don't do that. Like don't
Right?
like
Yeah.
don't oversell it because then people are gonna look at that and be like, that's not real. Like that's
Yeah.
you know
Or
that's
like, wear full face of makeup when you're like,
yeah yeah
not on
at the
stage or
gym.
whatever. Yeah. At the gym.
I I've seen that a lot. Like I, you know, like no judgment. I just like I don't know. For me, it's like I know I'd be like sweating something fierce and like
Yeah.
all of that. Like I've seen guys with like chains and
Mm.
jewelry and stuff,
Mm.
and it just kind of makes you think like, who are you doing it for? Like,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and honestly, like this is a little off in the weeds, but anytime I work out with makeup on, always end up with acne the next day. It's like, why? why did I do that? You
You're kind of
know?
asking for it. Yeah.
Yes, it's terrible. I mean, and I not that I like actually put makeup on then to go work out, but like if I, just had it on and then later I do a workout and I'm like, crap, I need to, wash my face, whatever.
Hmm.
Different people are prone to different things, but that's just always
Yeah.
my experience. I'm like, whoa, that was not worth it.
I mean, I just don't even get how it stays on in the first place. Like, if you're
Yeah.
actually working out, like, it shouldn't. Like, it shouldn't stay on.
Well, let's not even go down that rabbit hole of all the chemicals that are in everything and
Yeah,
why it stays on your face. Yeah. Okay.
that's true.
But yeah, so in my case specifically, and I think a lot of musicians out there, social can be this thing that is like your personal space, but then it can also be a business space, right? It's
Hmm.
beyond your resume. It can be your free marketing basically, right? It's a
Yeah.
free billboard out there now. So do you think people should kind of go about that in a different way if they're using it as more of a marketing campaign, like you said?
I think it's definitely a tool that you can harness to grow your platform, not only for, I would say, like an audience, but for support, like for example, like maybe a service you're trying to provide or like a product that you're selling, getting people to really know who you are goes a long way. But I think also it's important to have a balance. I think, where's the threshold between like measuring your success by engagement instead of like growth or craft? I think people kind of lose track. So it's important to like be patient and
Mm,
understand that like we're not always it's not always gonna work and you're not always gonna hit it on the nose like every day. And even you could be doing the formula perfectly and the results won't always be there. And I think that consistency is incredibly important and I think people forget that.
mm,
You like the more often you do it, the more often, and I think some algorithms are even designed like that too. I mean, like the more you post on Twitter, the more it'll show your content. I mean, obviously don't oversaturate the feed, but like I think, it's important to I would say, I think the hardest part is to be able to step away from it, and kind of come back to yourself and be like, okay, this is going to help me, but this is not the only thing I have, if that makes sense.
mhm,
And so I know for me, I when I start to get frustrated, I kind of pull back and I call it going back in the lab. And I'm just
mhm,
like, just focus on recording and creating first. And then,
mhm,
once I feel a little bit more confident in like what I have, let's say I'm like working on a project and I'm putting out these little projects, but they're kind of underperforming. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take a break from social media and I focus on just creating, just going back and maybe like filming stuff that I'm making or like not necessarily posting it in the moment, but just kind of like compiling things that I can use later. And then once I've kind of created a sense of confidence again, I can go back into it and say like, okay, I'm doing this because I like the way this looks and
mhm.
I want to share this with people that could potentially feel inspired or feel motivated. And then you have like a whole new library of assets that you can use, it's more content.
Yeah. So you're kind of saying what I'm hearing you say is you're kind of wanting to go away from kind of a comparative sort of culture
Exactly. Yeah.
and turn into yourself more, remind yourself of your true self and what matters to you, and then
Yeah.
putting that
Yeah.
out into the world. And I think that that
Hmm.
could help from, both for both personal accounts and for business accounts, right?
Yeah, I think we talk about time management, but we don't really talk about energy management. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a big part of that is like you can't create when your brain is stuck in survival mode. And when you're craving, like I said, that dopamine loop of, receiving validation from people, you're not in a creative headspace. You can't possibly, you know, inspire people when you are disrupting your own creative flow with the desire for validation from others, you know?
Completely. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point that it is a huge energy suck getting in that loop of the compare comparative. I don't know what to
I
say
think you
about
said
that.
it right.
Comparative culture. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, um, and you're kind of dovetailing into, yeah, the other point of the loss of productivity that comes from being stuck in that loop, not only
Exactly.
from your social account, but also, or lack of productivity in your social accounts, but also then in your actual craft, right?
Mhm.
And probably in
Mhm.
your everyday life. Like it might be even to the point for some people where it's like you're not getting your everyday activities, your needs met
Yeah.
and that of, your family or whatever. Yeah, it can be mentally really difficult. So kind of back to the business kind of planning, what would you say is a good, I know it's different for everyone, but how often should people be posting?
I definitely I like the system I think that we've created, kind of alternating. I don't think posting every day works. I think that it should be kind of like I think it sets a good framework at the beginning to kind of post often and then kind of see when your followers are engaging most with your content. It's not necessarily like often based on a schedule, but if we notice a pattern like, oh, most of our followers are active on Sundays, most of our followers are active on, if we had to pick a weekday where most of our followers are active and engaging, it's on a Wednesday, then that kind of sets the foundation to create a schedule that works for you. It's also important to not kind of like oversaturate your feed because I think what happens, and I think we noticed that when we were posting like every day, there was this kind of issue where we're kind of running out of content quickly,
Mm,
and we were just kind of like it wasn't as substantial, the stuff that we were putting out. So it wasn't resonating as much with people because it's like one, we're like oversaturating people's feeds. We're like, oh, like this girl again, like,
mhm.
and then like not even just that, the stuff that we're putting out isn't as it's not as meaty, like it's the we don't have as much if we're posting every day. And also like it kind of like if we're draining our own energies doing that, if that's where we're going to be doing, then we're taking away energy that we could be putting towards like I said, creating and making more stuff to be able to share with the world, if that makes sense. So I think I would say maybe for like a business, I would say maybe like 3 or 4 times a week is a good balance.
Yeah. But what you said initially was, posting more frequently to gain some kind of metric.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are kind of overwhelmed by that initially.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if someone was seeking help or just was feeling like they didn't want to do it all on their own, because, not only do you have to make the posts, but then you have to post them. And I know this,
Yeah.
someone who's 20 years old, this sounds like a big deal, right? But to somebody older, it's like, my gosh, now have you on TikTok? What? It's like
Yeah,
one
yeah.
more platform, right? So this could be overwhelming for a lot of people. I mean, you know how that's how I was at first. We know, I will admit, at first I was like, oh my gosh, like this is just so much time out of my day. But
Yeah.
like I just kept trying. I guess just kept trying. But part of the reason why I hired Sebastian, not that I didn't think he was going to be great, but he's also from a younger generation, which helps me, even though I'm not that much older. I mean, I'm not ancient, obviously. But, having that bridge, more of a bridge to what is trending with the younger crowd, because that is my demographic that I'm trying to reach more, right? So that right there, I think helps me to be more aware of what's going on social
Mhm.
media,
Yeah.
with other age groups. And I think it's really important to know, when you're looking for help, does this person understand what's going on with the trends?
Yeah.
Not only do they have experience, but are they going to be able to resonate with who I'm trying to target? you know? So what would you say if someone was looking for like resources or like whether they be online or whether they be a person to hire, like what are some attributes in your opinion that they should be looking for?
I think that first and foremost, I would say if you're if you're looking to learn how to be like how to have a good social media, I would say find someone on social media that inspires you and like look at what they're doing, like kind of study their patterns. And I wouldn't say like don't be a carbon copy, but I think when like one thing I learned in art school is like when we first learn how to paint, how to draw, how to sculpt, we learned from like a textbook. We are literally learning to copy first. That's kind of part of like the craft of knowledge is like you have to start with a blueprint. So studying what they do and then finding ways to like make it your own is kind of a mentality that I've adopted, like learning from the greats, but not necessarily like trying to be exactly like them. Like I think maybe like someone that you follow on social media that you're like, oh, this is really fun. I like this. Seeing like, well, how often they post or like what kind of captions they use, what kind of hashtags they use, or like what kind of like I know also like there is quite a bit of controversy around this, but there is also like AI now, like
Mm,
there's a lot of questions you can plug into a language-based model and learn a lot. I mean, it'll pretty much like break down everything for you. I know for a little bit, like I was making those, so I know, I guess kind of like learning how to maneuver Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, especially through like Meta Business Suite was kind of an obstacle for us
mm,
because like
mhm,
it's like the layout is always changing too. So like I don't even sometimes I don't even know what's going on when I open my phone. Um
mhm,
when I was making those like demos for you, like those step by step, okay, this is where you
mhm,
go to post this, and if you want to schedule this, you click this
mhm.
button. Those were all like language based models. Those were
Yeah,
all that
AI
was all
produced. Yeah,
like yeah, and so I think that it can be a really resourceful tool for like learning how to do that stuff. I think it's just a matter of like having curiosity and being able to like absorb patterns and stuff, if that makes sense.
yeah. I think that makes good sense. I almost see sometimes I think, you know, when I was growing up, Google was, or not when I was growing up, but like in college, you know, I think now my generation's Google is your generation's AI, sort of.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
like my parents will say, "Oh, I don't know how to do this," and they'll ask me 'cause they're like, "You know how to figure this out?" And I'm just like,
Mhm,
"Did you try and Google it?" You know, that's always the answer. I think I'm here kind of hearing what you're saying, like, "Oh, did you ask AI?" Like, no, or did
mhm.
you try and get a tutorial this way?
I think
It's just maybe a
one,
different way.
yeah. One thing that we've definitely I will say, like AI has a lot of like gives and takes, but one thing I would say that it's given us is like the accessibility to information. I think it's made it a lot easier for us to learn things. It's not always accurate. So I think that's
Mm,
one thing people
sure.
forget. But
Neither is Google.
yeah, it's definitely works for like people that maybe don't know where to look, I think that's a huge problem that I had before AI was like you kind of like it's and I think maybe your generation might be a little bit better at it than like Gen Z. I think that the AI kind of maybe could have dulled our sense of critical thinking a little bit, but like I think one thing I didn't have was like how to do research, what like how to know the information I'm looking at is from a credible, reliable source.
Mm, that's
I think
interesting.
that like one prompt I love using when I use language-based models is find me three scholarly sources to support this information. And it
Mm,
will literally like it'll pull stuff from like from library databases that are, backed by research and studies and stuff. And so that way I know I'm getting accurate information. Um, because if you just ask it like all willy-nilly, like it'll sometimes just like it'll pull something out of, like it'll literally just make stuff up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, that's a great tip to
mm-hmm.
know that it's supported by research. Yeah. Yeah. And then knowing the types of research that are more credible than others is important too, but that's kind of a different topic. So we could be looking to AI, we could be looking to online sources to help us with our social presence, right? What if
Yeah.
we're looking to work with an actual person? I guess it makes me kind of old, right? Because I like sought out a person.
Well, no, I think definitely I don't want to sound ageist, but I
It's
think
fine.
it's
I'm not
it's
taking it that way.
it's important to find someone that understands how social media is evolving, like how
Yes.
it's changing, how it's growing. Someone that can keep up with trends, someone that it doesn't necessarily have to be someone young, but someone that's like youthful, kind of like be able to understand, keep up keep up with like multiple generations, not just one, because sometimes maybe something that's trending like for Gen Z could be trending for like millennials, but like in a different way. I think someone that's not only creative but analytical, someone that like can understand like numbers and like how to read patterns and um like I said, I kind of someone that also has like critical thinking, like knows like where to look and where not to look for credible information.
Hmm.
And I think like someone that also just like overall has patience. And I think that's something that we forget a lot is like sometimes we kind of want to see it happen overnight. And I think that's something else that a lot of social media marketers struggle with is like they end up like, thank God this wasn't the case for me, but like they end up with clients that kind of they already get disappointed after the first quarter, and it's like they don't understand that it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And as long as you're with someone that's keeping the posts consistent and realistic and achievable, then you're working with someone that can get you real progress and can get you real growth.
Great. Yeah. I think those are all good tips, good attributes. I think
Hmm.
you are incredibly patient. That's one of the
Thank you.
great things about you. And also too, like, we'll just get on a call and we'll just, I'll kind of just tell you, like, I'm thinking X, I'm thinking about pivoting to Y, and you're just like,
Hmm.
all right, yeah, like, and sometimes you'll be like, oh, I don't know, and we'll just kind of like talk out the pros and the cons of it.
Yeah.
But you're also like very supportive of like, you're very encouraging. You're very like,
Thank
I
you.
believe in this. It's going to work. Like I still,
Hmm.
but I think if we ever hit a point where you're just like, no, this is not on track, I think you're going to also be real with me there too, which is
Hmm.
important, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the other things that you were kind of summarizing were essentially a growth mindset, someone that's
Yeah.
ready to be forward thinking in
Hmm.
how they're approaching things, right?
Yeah.
So what you said before, I think is also important about, it's good to kind of go with, maybe an established model first
Hmm.
in anything you're trying to do, and then kind of learn from it and kind of
Yeah.
then take your spin on it and move it around. And like, that's largely what we do.
Hmm.
The process I feel that we've gone through, and that we are constantly evolving and saying, well, this didn't quite work here. Let's tweak it here, and let's try this other thing. And because it's like there's a bit of frustration there, but there's also a bit of freedom and creativity and like, well, let's keep trying X, and it's kind of nice in a way
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
look at it that way.
I think we've
Easy to
kind
get
of
discouraged too.
exactly. No, I think we've learned to kind of approach it with like a sense of curiosity.
Yes.
Um and rather than trying to be perfect, we're like learning from a system that's constantly moving. And I think that's one thing that's taught me, like not even as like a social media marketer, but like as a person is that like growth is never linear. It's, it's got its peak and its valleys, and it's kind of like it goes like this, like, and sometimes when it feels like everything is crashing and burning, like that's when the real work is getting done.
Absolutely.
And that's when we're learning, that's when we're actually absorbing things that we should be absorbing in order to be successful in the long run. And so I think that us kind of approaching that collaboratively has really made a difference. And and maybe in a few months it'll look completely different, but like we'll probably have a new set of obstacles. But I think that as long as we approach it with like that same consistent mindset, it can even be like fun. I mean, it is
Mhm.
fun, you
It is
know?
fun
Yeah.
if you do it right. If you're doing, if you're being authentic,
Yes.
if
Yeah.
you're doing what you care about, it can be fun
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think, again, genuinely, this call is no exception. Each time we get off a call, I feel more energized. I feel
Hmm.
more, let's go, even if I'm down about it.
Hmm.
Oh, this is not performing well or whatever. Um, I always feel better after we talk. And I think
Yeah.
that's, again, I'm just going to echo to the person that's working with someone. If you're not feeling that way from your person that you're paying good money to and working with, pretty
Yeah.
closely, then that's a problem, I
Yeah.
think. Anyway, anything else you wanted to kind of add to this topic today?
I would just say I think a lot of what we talked about, especially like with social media, makes it a very nuanced topic. I think that it's if I were to like take away anything from what we discussed, I would say social media is not the villain. It's the mirror, and sometimes I think the hardest part about learning to look at yourself in the mirror is looking at yourself with compassion instead of what
This is
other
deep.
people, yeah, like I think I think cuz I think what I sounded like earlier was kind of like describing the devil, but like I don't think that social media is this like big devil that we should be scared of. I think it's important to like look at it like I said, like with a sense of curiosity and compassion, like understand like this is you, like this is how you should want to be perceived, and finding ways to like kind of grow with social media without losing track of who you are.
Love that. That's so good. So good. Just like your lighting on your camera, everything looks so,
My fake microphone.
yes, your fabulous microphone that's definitely enhancing your audio. Yes, I love it. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sebastian. And
Thank
if
you.
anyone wanted to get in touch with you to use you and your fantastic professional services for digital marketing, how would they do so? Or graphic design?
Yes, so multiple ways actually. I have a website. So it's Axolo Design, AXOLO design.com. That's where you can see all my work. You can reach out to me. I also have an Instagram. It's Design. So you can definitely reach out to me on there if you have any questions about. I do social media marketing, I do graphic design, I do animation now, which is kind of crazy.
Mm,
I do all kinds of stuff, and I'm very approachable. I'm not scary, I promise. Like you can talk to me about whatever you need, and even if I don't know 100%, I mean I mean Sarah's my first social media client, and I'm always very curious to learn and grow. So there's very little that I'll say no to.
yeah. He's very professional. We have
Thank you.
obviously a great working relationship. So I'm glad that I went ahead and took the plunge to, reach out and hire someone. I had been kind of on the fence about it for a while and finally made the effort, and I'm glad I did. The other thing it does for me is it makes me accountable, right? It gets me to show
Mhm.
up for my business and have someone to be, having to provide things for. So sometimes again, the community aspect helps just all around in your life. And this is another example of that.
Mhm.
So anyway, all right. Well, thanks so much for your time and
Of
hope
course.
everybody out there has an awesome rest of their day. Bye.
Yes.